Who lives beyond 40? Answer me sincerely, honestly. I tell you, who does? Fools and scoundrels do. I'll say that in the faces of all the elders, all others, all these venerable elders, all these silver-haired, sweet-smelling elders, I will say that in the whole world's face, I have the right to speak this way because I myself will live to be 60. I will live to be 70. I will live to be 80. Wait, let me catch my breath. Uh, you, you know, you know, doubt, think, you know, doubt, think, gentlemen, that I want to make you laugh here too. You are mistaken. I'm not at all such a jolly man as you think, or as you possibly think. If, however, irritated by all this chatter, and I already feel you are irritated, you decide to ask me, what precisely am I? Then I will answer you, I'm a assessor. I'm a collegiate assessor. I served so as to have something to eat, but solely for that. And what last year, and when last year one of my distant relations left me 6,000 rubles in his will, I resigned at once and settled into my corner. I lived in this corner before as well, but now I settle into it. My room is wretched, bad, on the edge of the city. My servant is a village woman, old, wicked from stupidity, always bad smelling. Besides, I am told that the Petersburg climate is beginning to do me harm, and that with my negligible means life in Petersburg, it's very expensive. I know all that. I know it better than all these experienced and most wise counselors and waggers of heads. But I'm staying in Petersburg. I will not leave Petersburg. I will not leave because but it's all completely the same whether I leave or not. But anyhow, what can a decent man speak about the most pleasant answer about himself? So then I too will speak about myself. Second part. I would now like to tell you, gentlemen, whether you do or do not wish to hear this, uh, why I never managed to become even an insect. I tell you solemnly that I want many times to become an insect, but I was not deemed worthy even of that. I swear to you, gentlemen, that to be overly conscious is a sickness, a real thorough sickness. For men's everyday use, ordinary human consciousness would be more than enough. More than enough. That is a half, a quarter of the portion that falls to lot of the development in our unfortunate 19th century, who, on the top of that, has added misfortune of residing in Petersburg, and the most abstract, intentional city on the entire globe. Cities can be intentional or unintentional. As much consciousness, for example, as that by which all so-called ingenious people and active figures like would be quite enough. I will bet you I will bet you think I'm writing all this out of a swagger to be witty at an expense of active figures and swagger of a baton beside, rattling my saber like my officer. But gentlemen, you can take pride in this sickness and swagger about them beside. Though what I'm saying, everyone does it. It is their sickness that everyone takes pride in, and I perhaps more than anyone. Let us not argue, my objection was absurd. But all the same, I was strongly convinced that not only too much consciousness, but even any consciousness at all is a sickness. I stand upon it. But let us also leave that for a moment. Tell me this, why was it that, as if by design, in those very same moments when I was most capable of being conscious of all the refinements of everything beautiful and lofty, as we once used to say, it happened that instead of being conscious I did such unseemingly seemly deeds, such deeds as well, in short, as everyone does perhaps, but which with me occurred as if by design, precisely when I'm most conscious that I ought not to be doing them at all. The more consciousness I was of good and all this beautiful and lofty, the deeper I kept sinking into my mire, and the more capable I was of getting completely stuck in it. But the main feature was that this was all in me, not as if by chance, but as if it had to be so, as if it were my most normal condition and in no way a sickness or a blight, so that finally I lost my wish to struggle against this blight. I ended up almost believing, and maybe indeed believing, that this perhaps was my normal condition. But at first, in the beginning, how much torment I endured in this struggle! I did not believe that such things happen to others, and therefore kept it to myself all my life as a secret. I was ashamed, maybe I was ashamed even now. It reached the point with me where I would feel some secret, abnormal, mean little pleasure in returning to my corner on some nasty Petersburg night, and being highly conscious of having once again done a nasty thing that day, and again that what had been uh, done could in no way be undone, and I would know and would know know at myself that with my teeth inwardly secretly tear and suck at myself until the bitterness finally turned into some shameful accursed sweetness, and finally into a decided serious pleasure. Yes, a pleasure, I stand upon it. The reason I have begun to speak is that I keep wanting to find out for certain, do other people have such pleasure? I explain to you, the pleasure here lay precisely in too vivid consciousness of one's own humiliation, in feeling that one has reached the ultimate goal, that bad as it is, it cannot be otherwise, and there is no way out for you, that you will never change into a different person, that even if you had enough time and faith left to change yourself into something different, you probably would not wish to change, and even if you did wish, you would probably still not do anything, because in fact there is perhaps nothing to change into. And chiefly and finally, all this occurs according to the normal and the basic laws of the heightened consciousness, and the inertia that follows directly from these laws, and consequently there is not only nothing you can do to change yourself, but there is simply nothing to do at all. So it turns out, for example, as a result of a heightened consciousness, right, you are a scoundrel, as if it were a consolation for the scoundrel himself to feel that he is indeed a scoundrel. But enough, I have poured all that out, and what I have explained, how explain this pleasure, but I will explain myself, I will carry through to the end. This is why I took a pen in my hands. I have, for example, a terrible armor armor proper. I'm an insecure and touchy as a hunchback or a dove, yet there have indeed been moments when I had happened to be slept. I might have even been glad of it. I say it seriously. Surely I did have managed to discover some sort of pleasure in that as well, the pleasure of despair, of course, but it is not a despair that the most burning pleasures occur, especially uh, when one is all too highly conscious of hopelessness of one's position. And here, with this slab, you simply be crushed by the consciousness of what sort of slime you have been reduced to. But chiefly, however you suffer, it still comes out that I always come out as the first to blame for everything, and what most offensive, blameless blamelessly to blame, according to the laws of the nature, so to speak. I am to blame first because I am more intelligent than everyone around me. I always consider myself more intelligent than everyone around me, and would you believe, have even felt slightly ashamed of it. At least I have somehow averted my eyes all my life and never could look people straight in the face. I'm to blame finally, because even even if there were any magnanimity in me, I would I would be the one most tormented by the consciousness of its utter futility. For I would surely be able to do nothing with my magnanimity, neither to forgive, because my offender might have hit me according to the laws of the nature, and the laws of the nature cannot be forgiven, not to forget, because even though it's the laws of the nature, it's still offensive. Finally, even if I should want to be altogether unmagnanimous, unmagnanimous, if on the contrary I should wish to take revenge on my offender, I would not be able to take revenge on anyone in any way, because I surely wouldn't dare to do anything, even if I could. Why wouldn't I dare? About that, I would like to say a couple of words in particular. Part 3. What makes, for example, with people who know how to take revenge and generally how to stand up for themselves. Once they are overcome, say, by vengeful willing, then by for the same time is simply nothing left in their whole being but this feeling. Such a gentleman just lunges straight for his goal like an enraged bull, horns lowered. Maybe only a wall can stop him. Incidentally, before a wall, these gentlemen, that is ingenious people and active figures, quite sincerely fall. For them a wall is not a deflection, as it is, for example, for us, because who think and consequently do nothing. It is not a pretext for turning back, a pretext for which our sort usually doesn't believe in, but it is always very glad to have. No, they fall in all sincerity. For them, a wall possesses something soothing, morally resolving, and finally, perhaps even something mystical. But of the wall later, well, sirs, it is just as an ingenious man that I regret as the real man, the way his tender mother, nature herself, wished to see him when she so kindly conceived him on earth. I envy such a man to the point of extreme bile. He's stupid. I won't argue with you about that, but perhaps a normal man ought to be stupid. How dare you know? Perhaps it is even very beautiful, and I am the more conceived of this, so to speak, suspicion, seeing that if, for example, one takes the antithesis of normal man, that is, the man of heightened consciousness, who become, of course, not from the bosom of the nature, but from a retort. This is almost mysticism, gentlemen, but I suspect that to this resort, a retort man sometimes falls before his antithesis so far that he honestly regards himself, with all the heightened consciousness, as a mouse and not a man, a highly conscious mouse, perhaps, but a mouse all the same. Whereas here we have a man, and consequently, and so on, and so on, and above all, it is he himself who regards himself as a mouse. No one asks him to, and that is an important point. Let us now have a look at the mouse in action. Suppose, for example, that it too is offended, and is almost always offended, and it too wishes to take revenge, for it may have stored up even more spite than anyone. The nasty base little desire to pay the offender back with the same evil may scratch still more nastily than it did another. With his innate stupidity, regards his revenge quite simply as justice, whereas the mouse, as a result of the heightened consciousness, denies it any justice. Things finally come down to the business itself, to the act of revenge itself. The wretched mouse, in addition to the one original nastiness, has already managed to fence itself about with so many other nastinesses in the form of the caution and the doubts. It has padded out the one question with so many unresolved questions that willy-nilly some fatal slobs have accumulated around it, some stinking filth consists of its debates, anxieties, and finally the spirit of raining on it from the ingenious figures who stand solemnly around it like judges and dictators, goughing, goughing it from from all their healthy gullets. Of course, nothing remains for it because to wave the whole thing aside with its little paw, and with a smile of the faint contempt in which it does not believe itself, slip back shame, shamefacedly or into its crack. There, in its loathsome, stinking underground, are beaten down, derided mouse at once immerses itself in cold wantonness and above all everlasting spite. 40 years on end it will recall its offence to the last most shameful details, each time adding even more to the shameful details of its own, spitefully taunting and chafing itself with its fantasy. It will be ashamed of this.